Prospector Podcast has gotten to the point where lucky number 13 has dawned on us. We might have postponed that fate by calling our summer series the summer spin-off, but season 13 has finally made its way to a screen near you, or more so a screen that you're holding. So to kick off the new season, we're talking everything UTEP Sports, including football, volleyball, and soccer. After that, we've got a few back-to-school tips and reminders for those nervous about starting a new chapter at UTEP. And finally, you might have noticed it by the very nice suit and the very interesting pic. We're going to be dressed nice because we have a very special guest. President Heather Wilson is joining the Prospector Podcast. We hear about the future of UTEP when it comes to law schools, AI programs, and the $118 million that were recently donated by the UT System Board. It is going to be possibly the best series premiere out of any Texas podcast. Stay tuned. You're watching the first episode of Season 13 of the Prospector Podcast. I'm Sebastian Perez-Navarro. Are officially back, could say picking back up for season 13 of the Prospector Podcast. Kristian, I know you like that. Guys, Kristian Hernandez is back co-hosting. We got our jobs back. Shout out our EIC Evelyn Palma. Hey, Kristian, I noticed a trend that happened from last semester to this one. When you were co-hosting in spring, you got promoted to sports editor, a paying role. Now that Cam decided to come back to the staff, you went from co-hosting to a paying role. Cameron Mason, in which I can now say is a staff reporter. Cam, welcome back to the Prospector Podcast. We missed you, man.
I missed y'all too, man. I missed y'all too. Thank you for having me back.
Let's get to the biggest elephant in the room. Not you yet. Sorry, Adrian. I think it's our dapper clothing right now.
There's two elephants? Okay.
Two elephants. There's two elephants in the room right now. The fact that we're wearing suits and you have a handkerchief on and I have a tie, that's because you might have told by the thumbnail, we're going to have President Wilson on later today, and usually it goes that whenever you have someone important on the podcast, like governmental position important per se, you dress nice. So that's the rule we're following. Am I right, Kristian?
Very correct.
Was this the right call?
It was.
Okay, awesome. Now, Adrian Gonzalez is joining us, a multimedia journalism major, a contributor for The Prospector, is new. Right when we announced this podcast, he was ready to hop in on it, talk everything about UTEP Sports. Adrian, welcome to the Prospector Podcast, and welcome to the Prospector.
Thank you, Sebastian. It's good to be here, man.
Good to have
really
you.
Excited.
So just so our audience can get to know you a little bit, Adrian, what do you like to do? What are your hobbies? What are your main interests in journalism? And what do you want to be when you grow up?
I mean, since I can remember, I've always wanted to get involved in sports. Obviously, I played it, but I was no good at it, obviously. That's why I'm here. But super excited for it. I want to go into sportscasting. I love doing research on everything. I love learning sports, love learning the names of everyone. I mean, it's just to me, it's literally, how can I say it? It's just my heaven, pretty much.
Your way of life.
Yeah. Amen, man. Amen.
I think sports is everybody's way of life here. All fans, but the only people good enough to play here are Cam and Kristian. Kristian's been teaching me basketball over the summer, and we've gotten to a point where he just unleashes his rage on me.
Only when you're like, oh, but I beat you that one time.
Yeah,
like, okay.
You know, I mean, I gotta flex when I have the opportunities to. But let's just get straight into the sports. We're going over football, volleyball, and soccer for our first segment of season 13, which is an unlucky number, but we'll try our best to avoid unluckiness on this podcast. Let's talk about football. They're coming off a 3-9 season, which sure, it may have been a little disappointing or not as much as UTEP football fans expected, but let's be honest here. Beating NMSU at the end of the season was amazing. With them winning those two rivalry trophies away in Las Cruces, they had Scotty Walding jumping on the football players' arms as if UTEP won the college national championship. And there's been a lot of hype surrounding this team. The fact that players like Cam Thomas are coming back, Scotty Walding's more experienced, and Malachi Nelson, the former number 1 recruit out of high school in the ESPN class of 2023. So, with so much hype surrounding UTEP football, I'll pose this question. Can they live up to it?
Well, we don't know. Okay, I like to go into things where I know a lot of sports analysts like to predict things, like Stephen A. Smith or Skip doing that whole thing. I always like to preach, or I want to preach from now on. It's like, we're not the players. We're not in the locker room. We don't see the schemes coming out right in the session. So, to me, we have to wait and see sometimes.
So, regarding those schemes, now for the first time this season in Scotty Walden's regime, he's letting media back into practice, but they can't take any videos or photos, or more so published videos or photos of them practicing actual schemes. It has to be very undetailed, per se. And a lot of that is because they want to protect their training and their new schemes and their new players in how they're factoring them into UTEP. Cam, I think as a person who played high school football for Eastwood High School, go Troop, I got booed because I said that on stage yesterday.
There wasn't too many troopers in the crowd.
Wasn't too many. It was horrible. I made a prediction I might get booed, and it happened, but so does Cody Rhodes, my wrestling hero. Anyways, speaking on the schemes in training, Cam, why do you think that's something that is being so protected, and what can we expect from UTEP football from them?
I think it's being, I went to the press conference with Scotty Walden today, and what I learned is that as far as their bench numbers, as far as in the weight room, of course, you want to have that. When it comes down to football, it starts in the trenches. You need big linemen. You need, I know I was talking to Adrian. He has shown me they had been sacked, I think like 22 times. And what Scotty did in the portal was he went after to beef up that line, and that's one way to elevate your game, especially wanting to go into Mountain West. You need to elevate. And as far as training, he said their bench numbers were up like 30, their squat numbers were up 100. Like, that's the numbers you'd like to see as far as training. And when it comes to the field, I know you had asked about the schemes and stuff like that. I know going into the second year, I know there's a lot of eyes on him. I would think, there's a lot of eyes, there's a lot of pressure, wanting to live up to that role, to be the head coach, to bring UTEP out of this gutter that they've been in. And I think he just wants just the team and no media, no nothing, just them, so that all eyes are on them. They could be attention to detail and all of that.
From going to the press conference, what did you learn from Scotty that you think could possibly work when it comes to player attitude and hyping up your locker room? Attributes that sure may be intangible but are still important to have a successful team.
I think it's a big character in your coach when they can admit when they're wrong. And I had a question for him. I was like, as far as like last year, attention to detail going into your second year, how do you think you can improve just as a head coach overall? And he was like, to be honest, just more attention to film, more of not being, hey, coach, do this, coach, do that. It was more of, hey, let's do this together, more bringing togetherness. And when your head coach can admit that they have flaws and they're wrong and that they're improving too, it reflects on the team so that they have character too, and they build up that so that they can be more open and communicative to the coach about certain adjustments, or even in game, just to be able to move on from something and not feel so pressured to make a mistake.
Adrian, you took a look at the UTEP football schedule for us, and, when we go back to last season, UTEP only 3 wins. Those came against FIU, Kennesaw State, and NMSU. Now you have at least what's a very different offense due to the quarterback change from Skylar Locklear. Now it's Malachi Nelson. What games do you think are most important and pivotal for this UTEP football team?
Well, it starts with week 1 for sure. At Utah State, it's a Mountain West team, so we're going to see a lot of Utah State in the upcoming years for sure. And the big question is, how is Malachi Nelson going to fit into the UTEP scheme? But it also does, answer the question of the defensive side. Looking at here, the opponent scored on 83% of red zone trips against the UTEP defense. That number has to go down significantly if you want to compete in the Mountain West for sure, especially in the CUSA against, New Mexico, Liberty, all those teams. They're not going to take it easy on you, especially when it's your second year. 9 times out of 10, they know you more better after your first year.
What do you think is the most crucial matchup to you? Or for everyone, we can say that.
For sure, Utah State and then UT Martin, it's an FCS school.
Mm-hmm.
But they are really competitive. They made it to the FCS playoffs, and obviously you go to Austin, Texas to face Texas. Arch Manning, all those guys.
Money game, cha-ching.
It's not gonna be easy, but you know what? Put up a fight. Put up a fight, man.
You think Austin is one of the most important games?
Austin for sure, because you get recognized nationally.
Mm-hmm.
Recognized nationally. See how everything goes. Just compete. It's as simple as that.
Well, it's happened before. You go to when Appalachian State almost or over 2 decades ago beat Michigan when they were ranked at least 2 or 3. I can't remember from the top of my head. That still to this day remains one of the biggest upsets in college football history. But do you think that we have the chance against UT is what I'm hearing, Adrian?
It's college football.
Oh, man.
Anything can happen in college football.
Oh, man. This guy
I know it's not March. Obviously March Madness, but you got to believe. That's all you got to do is you got to believe.
So do you believe in this team? Do you believe in Malachi Nelson? I guess that's how we end that football here is, does everybody on this table believe in Malachi Nelson? Adrian, I'll let you answer first.
It's not easier said than done for sure to turn a program around. But if he can do it, by all means, we'll welcome him with open arms.
But do you believe in him?
I can't answer that question right now.
Politician answer. Political answer right there. Kristian, I see you smirking.
Of course I do. Man, you gotta have people's backs and everything. And I feel like we always do this parasocial thing where we just don't see people as humans sometimes. And to me, like he's a college student. He goes to the same university as us. So of course I'm gonna back him up. And he's doing the hardest position in football of everything like that. And if he fails, he fails. If he wins, he wins. But that's how I see it. I'm always gonna support him.
Cam, we'll
you
go
know
to
what? I like Kristian's answer. From what I've seen, mixed emotions, most definitely, for being honest. But you know what Scotty Walden chose? That's their guy. It's our school. I think we have to be the first ones to back him up. Like Kristian said, we are the student body. So I think when it comes to sports, even if you don't agree with the decision or you may have mixed emotions about it, I think we have to back him up as a student body just to give him confidence to have somewhere, that he can confide in. So. Yeah.
Well, the first home game for UTEP is against UT Martin. That is September 6th. The big question is, will UTEP pack out the Sun Bowl? We'll see. Student tickets are free. Last year against Southern Utah, over 50,000 people. UTEP football looking for a successful season. Let's go to volleyball, however, who did have that successful season because they went dancing. Today I got the chance to talk to Ben Wallace. He had his national rings out from the ones that they received from the NCAA tournament. But the biggest question on the minds of everybody here is, after volleyball's first program appearance at the national tournament, can they go dancing again?
I believe so. They have a very identical roster. And then I actually went to the scrimmage. Well, not for the Prospector. I went by myself just to view everything and practice my writing for volleyball. I think they really do. Even though the scrimmage is more of an expedition game, it's chilled out. They're all having fun. I can see that competitive fire in every one of those players. And I think they can do just well. And I think that all comes down to those key moments you have in those seasons is like, are you going to come back from, let's say, the second set? Are you going to win this game? Are you going to try and shut out this team? I think that's it all comes down to at the end.
Coach Wallace has been very vocal about making El Paso a volleyball city, to the point where Memorial Gym, nobody knows what Memorial Gym is anymore because we all know it by Club Memorial. The beats that are being thrown down, and most notably, the CUSA tournament that was hyped up all of last year, a tournament in which UTEP was eliminated in the semifinal, yet despite that, they went into the NCAA tournament with their heads held up high, and they give a battle to the number 8 ranked Oklahoma Sooners. Cam, what do you think about Coach Wallace as a guy who is a former athlete and who's had a very fiery coach on his sideline before?
I think he's a perfect fit, and his record speaks for itself. 2021 is when they had a 24-8 year. 2022 is when they kind of had a down year. But ever since they've been elevating, and as you can see, even when they played Oklahoma, they had a 2-0 set lead on them. And so they're more than capable, I think, to make noise. Ben Wallace is more than capable, I think. I think he's brought in. I didn't know volleyball had such a pronounced energy here, and he brings it, and the student body feels it. Like when I had just reported, it was like my first time reporting for the Prospector last year. I think my first story was like a volleyball story, and like the atmosphere in there was crazy. And with him, you can tell he's a very analytical coach. He's a fiery coach, but he's an analytical coach, and you can see that, and it trembles off on the players.
But you got to say, CC, congrats, Cam. It's 1 year anniversary at the Prospector is coming up. Adrian, you broke down the schedule for us, some of the most important games. Obviously, the one that everybody has their eyes on here is the season opener against UCLA. What games, non-conference and conference games, do you think are most important for this team to define whether or not they're picked by the NCAA as a contender to go to the tournament again, despite maybe not winning their conference?
Well, I think for sure there's some games outside of conference play that definitely boost their chances to go dancing like they did last year versus Pepperdine, a school down in California, really good conference over there. They had a strong record. You beat them early season in the tournament, that definitely turns a lot of faces. For sure, against Arizona, obviously, they're great at volleyball. They had a 24-9 record last year. It's a Pac-12 team who's been to the NCAA tournament before. If you pull off that win, that's a huge statement win coming back home to face UCLA, and everyone knows UCLA in volleyball. Everyone knows that, how, the rich history they have there. Even though they were below 500 last year, the name itself speaks for itself, obviously. You beat them, you get national recognition, and just like that, you enter conference play against Western Kentucky University, who went undefeated in conference play. You beat them, you can prove that you can match with the top dogs of the conference. Then obviously LA Tech, Louisiana Tech, they're conference rivals. It's a rivalry game. You got to take them down. No matter what the record is, no matter what it is, you have to show that you can protect home turf. And then the last one I have is for Sam Houston, where they went 13-17. It's the most equal opponent that UTEP's going to be facing. You hold them down, you'll be dancing in November for sure.
So before we end off, and it might be spoiling the story, sorry, Kristian, but I'm going to steal it right now because this is all Prospector content.
Okay.
You look very disappointed in me.
Well, I'm just wondering what you're going to say.
Well, when interviewing Coach Ben Wallace today, I asked him whether or not this team looks at going dancing again or reaching the NCAA tournament as pressure or an extra motivation. And not his exact words, but essentially he told me that the team could look at it both ways. And that response is up to the players. The player who I interviewed today, and which I won't spoil because you could go read it at www.prospectordaily.com. Go read it, please. There's a lot of effort that goes into it. She told me that this team is looking at it from a stance of motivation, from a stance of wanting to make El Paso feel like a volleyball city and represent a community in which they really love. El Paso's a volleyball city, and I think with their success, we're all here for it. Guys, we now got to turn the page towards, and I was watching some Ted Lasso motivation before coming back to school because I just needed to feel some wholesome energy running through me, which makes me kind of sad that I didn't bring last year's Halloween costume to this table because I think it would have been a really good fit to talk about soccer. But anyways, it's fine. We'll go on. The UTEP soccer team is currently 1 win, 2 losses, and 1 draw into their season. Their 1 win coming against Texas Southern, dropping games against Cal State Fullerton and Abilene Christian. 1 draw against UC Riverside. Cam, I want to ask you, how are these players performing so far this season? And for a UTEP soccer team that is hungry for success, what mentality should they be having going forward?
So what I noticed was compared to their last year, they have a lot of new players. So they're a very young squad. I noticed that the coach even brought in a new goalkeeper coach. So they want to restart with their program so they can turn this program around and make it make some noise. So definitely their top 2 scorers are actually a sophomore and a freshman. So, and then their main goalkeeper is actually a freshman too. So they are really owned in on development and trying to develop these players into future stars. And sorry, what was your second question?
What was my second question?
The mentality.
Mentality. Yes, mentality.
Mentality for this year. I think as a coach, I would say, of course, you expect to make some noise and do something, but I don't think it starts this year because you have such a young squad. They're very inexperienced. Of course, you have a couple of seniors in there that are going to do their thing, but I think they definitely want to own in on development this year, most definitely. And, yeah.
Okay, I'll give you this. I think, that was a very bold statement, Cam.
Kristian's just looking at me like there's a bubble in his mouth right now.
You had a bubble in your mouth right
now.
Okay, look, just like Ted Lasso, okay? It just takes 1 season sometimes.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I think it all takes about trying to, how do you explain this? Because when you're a team, you know what I mean?
Okay.
You need to build that up.
Adrian, before we wrap up, your opinions on the most important game for UTEP soccer going into the season or continuing it, as right now, they're barely just 1-2-1 into the season.
I like to piggyback off of what Cam brought up with that freshman goalkeeper. Dude, I'm looking at the stats, dude. 3 saves in the week 2 game win versus Southern, then 2 saves against UC Riverside where they tied, and then she registered a career high 4 saves in that loss versus Cal Fullerton. Like, she's making a name for herself out there for sure. So she's going to definitely be a cornerstone of that team moving forward. But games to look forward to, Arizona State. They're facing a Power 5 program on the road. And then versus Liberty, Delaware, and Kennesaw State at home. You have to protect home turf no matter what. I don't care what sport it is. You don't let anyone come into your backyard and push you around. And obviously the final one, Battle of I-10 rivalry. It does not matter what sport it is. No matter what it is, you got to beat New Mexico State. I think being a UTEP minor, you got to beat New Mexico State for sure.
UTEP Sports is officially taking off. You can keep up with coverage with the www.theprospectordaily.com. Follow us on socials, watch our YouTube channel, and look out for some nice content coming your way. Cam, Adrian, thank you so much. Stick with us. We're talking about back to school up next because our next two guests are kind of falling asleep right now or just on their phone. So we're going to bring a little bit of livelihood and fun back into their lives. Talking all about back to school since we're filming on the first week of school. Stay tuned. You're watching the first episode of the Prospector Podcast, Season 13. Welcome back to the Prospector Podcast, Season 13, Episode 1, Segment Numero Dos. And no, we're not talking about the Uno spinoff. Kristian, we couldn't let our glamorous fits go to waste. You dry cleaned your suit, and I know that because I saw the dry clean suit sitting neatly on your sports editor desk.
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
So we have the ties out. President Heather Wilson is going to be joining us right after this segment, but it would be an injustice to release Episode 1 so close to being back to school at UTEP without actually talking about being back to school. Kristian, you're officially going on your second official semester at UTEP, or your third, right?
It would be my third. It's exactly a year from now.
Exactly a year from now. You didn't apply for the Prospector in the fall. You applied for it in the spring.
I did. I did want to go to the Prospector during the fall. I remember asking one of our work studies, who I later found out was a work study. It's like, hey, are they hiring? I was like, oh, I'm not sure. You would have to check in with them. They're doing something in the spring.
And he never checked in.
I did.
You did?
Well, I did it because I had another job during the fall.
Wow.
But I got in. I'm here now.
You are. Happy 1 year anniversary of being at UTEP, Kristian.
Thank you.
Anywho, now let's introduce the new faces on the desk. We are back home, but with different people. So, first of all, we have Vivian Noe, currently a sophomore, a staff reporter at the Prospector, and whom we had a fellowship together in the fall of 2024, so some familiarity. Vivian, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Sebastian.
And finally, we have a fresh junior, a funior. Yeah, we have a funior, Mia Colmenero. I said it right. There we go. I said it right. It only took 2 tries. Mia Colmenero, who is joining us, who is technically a junior if you take into the fact that you did early college, but you're also technically a freshman.
I am.
Despite technically being a freshman, Mia is our new layout editor, which somehow is surprising that she gets along with me because I've heard something about me putting layout editors to work. I don't know how that reputation goes, but I'm so sorry.
It's
Anywho,
a canon event.
I've already asked her for like 17 different logos. Welcome to the Prospector, Mia.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
It is good to have you. Let's just get straight into it. Back to school for the first time. Vivian, you're going on what is your second year as a sophomore. Mia, you're in a little bit of not a weird situation, but a smart girl situation, to better say. You already have your associates. It's your first official day at a university. How was the experience like finally being familiar with all of your classes?
Well, this is my last day exploring all my classes. I think I'm very relieved, to say the most. The campus is huge. I have never been through such a large campus, especially just coming out of high school. It's such a new environment, and I'm actually really excited and pleased that we have so much resources and buildings. And I've noticed that UTEP cares about their students, and I never really experienced that, especially since you're in EPCC, you're just online and stuff. I never went to in-person.
So you only took online classes then?
Yes.
I feel like that's a really impersonal way to get an associate's, or at least to go through college, right? I imagine, I don't want to bring back any bad memories, but like that must have been extremely lonely.
Most definitely, because I was probably one out of the 2 PR majors. So I didn't really have any people that I could study with, or I didn't have any people who like, hey, can you help me with this? It was just all by myself.
Wait, so choosing that major at such a young age, why'd you choose that major?
Because I was the closest to journalism.
Okay, yeah. I see.
So now you have actual journalism in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
You joined the Prospector as a contributor in the summer. You joined, I think, when we were midway through. Mm-hmm. That transition from contributor to editor while balancing your first official year of university, per se, to make the distinguishment from college, how was it like when you were told that you're going to be the layout editor of the Prospector while still being unfamiliar with UTEP?
Most definitely, it was nerve-wracking. I mean, I didn't know the campus. I didn't know the people who I was going to work with or be with. And I think since the Prospector is full of journalists, they have a lot of people skills. And they kind of just brought me home. You know, when I was
I'm honored to have people skills. Kristian, you have people skills?
I'm trying.
I don't think it's very people skills to cut you off there. Go ahead, Mia.
No, it's okay. Being layout editor, it was very different to what I did. I was designing the yearbook in my high school years.
Hashtag EIC of El Dorado
EIC,
yearbook.
Yes.
You know, I wanna go ahead and make the sequel to this. For context, I've only went to Montwood High School, so do with that information as you will. But all right, guys, Mia went to El Dorado. Do with that information as you will.
You know what?
Sorry, I'm an Eastwood guy. I think we already went through it. Boot at Gold Rush, you know the vibes. Mm-hmm. Go Troop, all the way. We have like 8 Rams, Montwood Rams here. For those who aren't as familiar with El Paso high school culture, there are 24 public high schools here, which means rivalries are real. Eastwood, in which me and Cam went to, had a rivalry with Montwood High School called Battle of the Woods. But considering that me and Cam still have jobs, I'm saying that we've been forgiven for going to that high school. I hope Evelyn's smiling at me. I hope I'm not fired after this episode. But Mia, you were the EIC of the El Dorado yearbook, which, even though it's high school, a lot of people don't give it the credit it deserves because in order to make a yearbook, your journalistic prowess needs to be at an all-time high, especially if you're the one in charge of those 100-plus pages. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. First times. Well, how did you navigate that? Like being the boss for everyone.
We always had a system set up. I think most definitely I were more strict with my staff because when we moved to a whole new program, we didn't do InDesign or any Adobe applications. We went to Yearbook 360, I remember it, maybe. And basically, it's just a less complicated Adobe InDesign. And I was super, super unfamiliar with it. And I was the only EIC, I was the first EIC to move to that program. So it was me and my advisor just figuring this thing out together. And that really built a lot of my leadership because I was learning with my staff. And yeah, it was like we always built those, and I built new systems, especially because we have a brand new program. And it's just a learning process, especially when you're a leader and you're also at a very young age dealing with like a 46 person staff.
So Mia is technically a junior, hence her being a grade above me and Vivian, which Vivian decided to say, hey, you know what? I'm a little nuts. I'm going to take on a dual major, psychology and media advertising, which, by the way, we have more on dual majors. Cameron Mason wrote a brilliant piece about it. You can find it on the www.theprospectordaily.com. I said it right. Bring out the bells or whatever sounds whenever you get a question right on what's the game show called? Any game show.
There's a lot of games.
Jeopardy. We'll go with Jeopardy. I feel like we'll get copyrighted if we use the Jeopardy game sounds. So we won't do that. But Vivian, taking on a dual major, how were you able to navigate your first year here? And 2 days in, how have you been able to navigate your second one?
Okay, so my first year, I was not a double major starting my first year. That kind of happened just on my second semester. But I actually started out with a different major because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do yet. Like, I knew what I was interested in. But when I actually went to my orientation, they were like, oh, okay, like, this is what you want to do, go to this major. So I somehow ended up starting out as a biology major, which made, like, no sense to me because I was never that much into biology. But I was like, I want to help people. And they were like, okay, you want to help people? Like, go to medicine, med school. It's, like, the first thing. So after that, I was like, no, this is so not for me. And that's why I kind of did, like, a full 360, like 180, like. But yeah, I think going into college, you have to go with an open mind. That's like the first thing. Like, don't close your options, especially the first year. And also don't beat yourself up if you change your mind later. I actually really like science, but I could never live without the creative part. And I think that's something that I need. I wanted to be like in a workplace where I could be creative and I could also investigate. And now I'm here in journalism, which is kind of both. I think there are so many options, especially today where careers are like changing a lot. And yeah, I would say first year, go with an open mind. Don't beat yourself up. It's so different and you're learning so much about university, like even like going into your classes and it's meeting new people, but it's also knowing about yourself. What do you want to do? Who do you want to be? Where do you see yourself? And it's, I think, a lot of self-reflection. And yeah, honestly, that's like my advice for like freshmen or people starting out. Go in with an open mind and meet people, like go out, get yourself out there, get yourself uncomfortable or comfortable doing uncomfortable things. And now going here, my second year, I feel a lot better. I feel more at peace because I was definitely in like a full-blown career crisis. Like, what am I going to do with my life if I don't know? Like, I'm here with a major that I don't even feel like I belong in. Like, what am I going to do? But you're actually going to figure it out. I think you just have to trust your gut, but keep an open mind. And now my second year, I got classes in buildings I had never been to. Like, I had to walk a lot more. Definitely have to calculate that. Like, don't just think, oh, how long will it take me to commute to UTEP, but like, how long will it take to make it to my class? Because I went in and I was like 10 minutes late and I was like, no, first day. But no, honestly, like, it's been good so far. I've enjoyed it.
Here's a fun fact before I ask you a follow-up. You can find all of your buildings on UTEP by using Google Maps. If you are struggling, use Google Maps. I will say that again. Use Google Maps, please. It's going to save your life. Really, you could do that whether you're at UTEP or whether you're at the University of Texas at Austin or any other college. Use Google Maps. This is coming from a guy who has done that. So use Google Maps. We're not sponsored by Google Maps, but...
No, we can use UTEP Maps. They have their own map system.
Yeah.
You can actually search the building and it'll show you where it is.
Yeah, but...
Or maps, just like...
No, Google Maps is better.
No.
Google Maps is better. Anyway, so Vivian, a psychology major and a media advertising major, at least when I first entered the Prospector, the question was, why as a comm major are you getting involved in journalism? So I wanted to ask you, you wanted to unleash your creativity. Why the Prospector?
Why the Prospector? I think there was no other better place for me. Like, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I full on stalked the Prospector before applying, and I saw like everything you guys did. Actually, like being here at the podcast was one of my goals. Like, even on my interview with Evelyn, I was like, I want to do the podcast. Like, I'm right here. I'm like, okay.
Pop quiz.
milestone.
Which one was your favorite episode?
My favorite episode, I like the one where you interviewed your old boss.
Really?
Yeah,
You watched that one?
Yeah.
Dude.
I told you, I'm not lying.
My
I
day.
did stalk the Prospector and see. I just thought, like, wow, this is so cool because I had a background in journalism. At my old school, we had a program. It was called Storytellers, and it was like journalism for us, but it was so crazy because it was just 3 students. We were covering every single event, and we were doing stories, we were doing pictures, we were doing interviews, we were doing everything. And every month we had to turn in. So I had like that background where I was like, I like talking to people. That's actually also why I chose psychology, because I like talking to people and like hearing and listening to their life stories. I'm like nosy, so I was like journalism, duh. I went into the Prospector. I was like, I want to be a part of this. I want to also learn more. And like, for example, here being on the podcast, like I think this is so cool. I want to do ASMR. I'm like tempted to just like, but no, I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, I was like, this seems like a place where I can learn so much, unleash my creativity, but also learn a lot professionally. And that's why I ended up here. Also, you guys just have like a great vibe. I just loved it. Like the second I walked into the office for my interview, I was like, wow, I need to be here.
We're Vibe certified, Kristian. Vibe certified.
Vibe certified. I actually changed my major too. I remember I was
Really?
a diesel mechanic to begin with.
Oh my gosh.
Very, very different.
I can see that.
Yeah, I didn't start off.
I can see that.
Okay, first you didn't think I had a 4.0 GPA. But anyways, be careful. Hey, there's a mic right there.
Fun fact. I guess I could release this story now. Yesterday, for those who were at Gold Rush, when I was making the walk on stage, I was hyping myself up. I was gonna run on stage, yell at the crowd, and then I almost tripped.
What do you mean? I didn't see that.
I almost tripped up the stairs because my shoes are really big. I wore an 11.5, so I don't know. I hope no one caught that, but I guess now it's public information, so you could get that if you watch the Prospector podcast. And you, Kristian, continue.
Yeah. So I remember switching my major. I know I was super nervous. I was really, really nervous, but I never regretted that decision. So I just want to know, like, switching twice for you, how was that for you? Or making that decision, like what was something that you just
it wasn't scary for me at all. Like, I think I had the opposite experience. I was like, you know what, I'm more scared of staying with something I don't like. I feel like I've always been the type of person where I know what I like. I follow my gut, I follow my instinct. And I was like, this is not for me, I'm switching. Also because I had a lot of experience, like, with the career and with the field. Like, I got into research. I was doing research at a neuroscience lab. And I was doing it on PFAS, like plastic and how it affects your brain. And it was so cool. But I just wanted to, like, keep my options open. And, you know, I kind of realized, like, what do I like? And I think I know myself. Like, I've gotten to know myself a lot. And that's why I was very sure of my choice. But I think definitely at the start, you have that self-doubt of, like, what if I'm actually not, like, doing the right decision? But I think, I don't know, I think it's like the fig tree analogy. I don't know if anybody knows that. It's like by Sylvia Plath. It says that, like, you have all these choices, like, as a tree, and you have the figs, and if you eventually don't choose anything, you're just gonna stay there, and the figs are gonna go, like, rotten. And I was just thinking, like, you know, I don't want my college years to be spent in doubt, or if I know I'm gonna end up switching. So I just, like, did it, and it was the best choice I could have ever done. And I'm honestly really happy with it. I feel very at peace. But, like, yeah, I think it's a hard choice, especially telling your parents, like, oh, that's a hard part, I think, telling people, like, oh, I think I made a mistake with my major. But I don't think it was a mistake because I got to know a lot of cool people and a lot of really cool experiences. So, yeah, I think college is about getting to know yourself and getting to know the world around you. So that's the cool part of it.
Before we end off, Kristian, your 1-year anniversary at UTEP has officially happened or is happening. A lot of people are in your same situation. They complete 2 years at EPCC, they finally come to UTEP, and a lot of them feel lost or disoriented because it's a change of setting. What would you say to students in those positions or students who don't know where to get started or how to feel included within the university?
Well, to begin, UTEP, no hate to EPCC. I love EPCC. I love the teachers and everything. It wasn't as engaged as UTEP is. You can do a lot here at UTEP. It's all about just doing those initial icebreakers. And I think it's also a message to current UTEP students, just be just a little more open-minded. I understand we all have reservations for a reason against each other, but, you know, just breaking that initial ice. Like how we're all doing here. We all broke the ice with everyone here, and we're all cool with each other. You see what I mean? We're all comfortable with each other. And just going in class, don't just leave right away. Because I used to do that at EPCC sometimes, and I'll just be like, I'm going home. It's 10:30 in the morning. You know, it's whether you're on campus or doing a club or going to class, talk to the teacher more and see what they offer, see what they sponsor for a club. There's so much more to offer here at UTEP. And then when you're going in, I remember going in and I was so nervous going in. This was like my second day here at the university. There's so much going on. There's a lot of people getting a little bit of anxiety. And just kind of going with the flow and just being excited for what's going to happen because I have no idea what's going to happen. I just remember thinking that I need to work harder than I ever have before. And I keep thinking that every single year that I age, and you just got to keep going. That's all I got to say.
Got to keep going. Wise words from our sports editor, Kristian Hernandez. President Wilson is coming up next. You're watching the Prospector Podcast, Season 13, Episode 1. Stay tuned because we've got some presidential words coming up next. Welcome back to the Prospector Podcast. This season, a special one, Season 13. Kristian Hernandez back co-hosting Evelyn Palma, our new EIC. I'm Sebastian Perez-Navarro. Guys, to close off our first episode of the Prospector Podcast, Fall 2025 edition, we have a very special guest, if not the most special guest that we can have. President Wilson, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So let's get into the heavy burners first, and that is, what time did you end up leaving Texas Western Gold Rush at?
I had to stay through the fireworks. It was, I love the fireworks. In fact, when we started Texas Western Gold Rush in 2021, when everybody came back from the pandemic, we wanted to do something special for the first night of school. The president of the Student Government Association at the time, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I don't care what we do as long as we have fireworks. And she said to me, Dr. Wilson, do you think we could have fireworks? And I thought, I love you. So since then, we've had fireworks, and it's like my only thing. The rest of it is gravy as long as we have fireworks.
So are the fireworks better than pulling on the dynamite on stage?
Definitely better. Yeah, because the dynamite is kind of, it's just a prop. But the fireworks are fun.
Definitely. So let's get into it. The first thing that we'd like to hit on is UTEP's law school proposal. In November, UTEP made a proposal, or at least a report, that it is feasible to have a law school at the University of Texas at El Paso. The original plan, at least according to that report, is to make the proposal to the Texas legislature by 2027. That proposal was made 2 years in advance.
That was intentionally so. So we got money from the legislature to do a feasibility study, which we did over an 18-month period, and then submitted that to the legislature. The next phase, and the phase we're in now, is to gather the support from the local community. The intention was not to ask the legislature to fund this without the support of the local community. So there's a period now where we're working with law firms and others in this region to make sure everybody's on board. And then a year from now, in June, we'll make the decision, okay, is this go or no go? And we'll go back to the legislature and to the regents at that time if we think we're ready to go with a law school.
And yet, despite that, the House still passed the proposal. So with 17% of Hispanics, Puerto Ricans, and Latinos applying to law school in all of America, how much of importance does the Texas legislature already show for UTEP to have UT's second law school?
Well, actually, Representative Perez wanted to keep that in the mix because there was a law school bill from another region of Texas, which has not made it as far as we have. But he wanted to put that marker down just to say, look, this is underway in West Texas, and we're actually far in advance of the other regions of Texas, because in order to get an ABA-accredited law school, you have to start out with a feasibility study. That's a good 12 to 18-month process on its own. And so we're doing this the right way, and we're going to gather the support of the community, and we have the support of our legislative delegation as well. I actually think that the study came out better than I expected, that this is more feasible and not as costly. The building will be costly, but they always are. But the program is not as expensive as I would have thought. There's demand in the region, and while there's enough lawyers in Texas, there are not enough lawyers in West Texas and southern New Mexico. So I think there's a niche for us, and I think there are people who are place constrained that can't go to Albuquerque or Austin or Houston to go to law school, and we can provide a great legal education here.
Very nice.
Now, I have to say there were a couple of things that came out in the study. One is there's a shortage of fluently bilingual lawyers in all disciplines, and the second area of focus is U.S.-Mexico trade, and that aligns with what we're doing with the Woody L. Hunt College of Business. 20% of trade with Mexico. Mexico is our largest trading partner. 20% of that trade comes through this city. If there is a place in the country that should be the best in the country at studying business and U.S.-Mexico trade, it should be here, and the same is true for law. So when it comes to public and private, international law, transborder law, commercial issues in both countries, regulatory issues, we should be really, really good at that here, and I think we can be.
Mm-hmm. And as we wait for further development on this law school here at UTEP, what is UTEP doing to support students that are interested in pursuing law or strengthening the support of our community?
Well, the Law School Preparatory Institute has been here for some time. I think they just celebrated like their 25th anniversary last year. And it was started by a couple of alumni, the Yetter family, who saw that students were applying to law school, but they weren't really prepared. Mm-hmm. And it creates a summer program that's very demanding that helps students prepare for applying to law school. And our students, we put 30, 35 students into law school every year, and they are overperforming the rest of the country in both the LSAT and also in acceptance to the top law schools in the country.
So my question to you is, for the go or no-go when we go into the future, what kind of domino effect would that create? Let's say you do go, what kind of example does that set for everyone else in Texas? And no go, how does that set the example as well?
Well, I think the real question on the go is, does the community support it? and particularly the law firms in the community. So we don't want to put ourselves in a situation where people don't really understand it all, or there are members of the bar who are opposed to it. So we're doing a lot of engagement with law firms and asking, frankly, also for their financial support to start this up. We are hearing from the major law firms in the region that they can't find enough talent. And so they are subcontracting or turning away business, subcontracting to law firms in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Okay, well then help us solve that problem. Here's the business plan. Here's how much this will take. Can your law firm contribute to expanding the pathway for exceptional attorneys to be developed and educated here? And so that's what we're asking them for.
One last question before we moved on, considering the law school. In the 32-page PDF that was released in November, and you mentioned it as well, the cruciality of El Paso and Juarez relationships opening up U.S. and Mexico trade law. Does having a law school, which would take $20 million to invest in, plus buildings, which has been rumored to be around possibly $60 to $110 million, does having a law school here open up the scope of law that students can practice, or rather would it have a special concentration on U.S.-Mexico trade law?
No, it was one of the things the study showed is there's demand across the board in tax, contracts, administrative law, immigration law, all kinds of law, but that there is a niche. Every law school teaches all of those things. But there is a niche for us, I think, in developing fluently bilingual lawyers where there's a need, and also in U.S.-Mexico trade, where there is also a need, and a need here in this region. And so when we think about, there's one other piece that we might specialize in that probably wouldn't be in the first 10 years when we're getting this started up. But if you study law and you practice law in Mexico, if you get an LLM, so a master's degree in law, from an American university, you can actually practice law in the United States. You can take the bar here. We think eventually we're going to have an evening program here at UTEP so that lawyers practicing in Ciudad Juarez can cross the border, go to evening class here, and become qualified to practice in the United States as a result. And that also deepens the connection and increases the capacity in the region for those who are capable of supporting, whether it's businesses or families or others, with respect to law.
Some big news over the summer was made, not the UT investment, in which we'll get into later, but the fact that mining is finally making a comeback to UTEP. Yeah. I think that a lot of people can recognize mines at this university because of the pug that sits in the giant treasure of gold at Gold Rush yesterday. But over the summer, it was announced this is something that has been ongoing since September of 2024, when the University of Texas Board committed $20 million into UTEP to reestablish the mining engineering program, making that program the only one in all of Texas.
Correct.
They'll start classes all the way in fall of 2027, and this was stated by UTEP, 500 mining job openings annually per 10 years.
Yeah, so that's in all of America. There's about 500 openings a year. It waxes and wanes, but about 500 a year. And America is only producing 300 mining engineering graduates a year. The number of mining schools has closed, and it's now down to only 14. Some of them only graduate a few a year, and there's a desperate need. We need to be able to, and you think about it, the cell phones that are in your pockets have about 26 different minerals in them. And we're dependent for minerals on countries that don't like us very much. So there's a desperate need for people to be able to find those minerals, know how to get them out of the ground, and then restore the land once the mining is done. And that's mining engineering. It's where it's the roots of this university. We started as a mining school, and we stopped teaching mining engineering in the 1960s, but we still have all the associated disciplines of geology, metallurgy, and so forth. So we think when we were asked about this, we put together a plan. We think we can restart this, but we don't want another struggling mining program. So if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. And it's a $10 billion industry in Texas alone. And then you look at the West and Mexico, there's a huge need for good mining engineers. So we expect to have the largest mining program in the country, and it's also going to be the best mining program in the country.
To follow up on the need for mining, 5.8% of college grads aged 22 to 27 are unemployed. That's higher than the national unemployment rate, which currently sits at 3.9%. Does the introduction of a mining program in a field that is begging for jobs make UTEP's awareness on a national stage grow? Because now students have more career options if they decide to go to the only school in Texas with a mining program.
We want to prepare students for the jobs of the 21st century. And we also want them, no matter what their interests are, to have a great transition from college into their first job. We're actually doubling down on that in all of our majors. But being responsive to industry in a program like mining is another way to do that. They are desperate for talent. Our job is to develop talent. And we should do that in ways that meet the needs of the people in the industry we serve. So I think all of us are a little concerned about the slowdown in job openings for recent college graduates, and I consider that to be part of our mission. You know, it doesn't stop when you graduate. It only stops for me when you have that first job that you want, and you're not looking for another job. That, for me, is part of our success.
Mm-hmm. And with the $7 million investment, that was from a mining industry leader.
Freeport-McMoRan, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. How do you see UTEP partnering with local and global industries to make sure that we're staying up to date with challenges such as sustainability and new technology?
So it was industry that came to us and asked us this question initially. You know, can you? It was actually an alum. Bob Malone is his name. He studied metallurgy here. Went on to become the president of BP America. He now is retired out in San Angelo, and he came through. We were having lunch and I said, well, what are the challenges you're seeing? And he's the chair of the board of Halliburton as well as Peabody. And he said, we cannot find mining engineers. It's just terrible. And I said, And I said, well, maybe we should look at that. And so it was industry that came to us and said it's a problem. The regions were very supportive of our looking at this. But it's being supported by industry. We have a long relationship already with Freeport-McMoRan. They hire a lot of engineers here, and they have a huge copper operation. But I think there will be, and we'll be announcing it as we go, other industries that are willing to say, yeah, if you're going to do this, if you're going to meet our needs, we're with you. And we want them to help influence the curriculum because, in my experience, it's industry that really understands the cutting-edge practices and can really help our curriculum be absolutely top-notch.
Do you believe those are the biggest obstacles you have to go through, just approving everyone that you need to invest in this? Do you think that's...
We've had tremendous positive response, more than I expected, and I think maybe part of it is there are so many dying mining schools in other states, and the 5 largest states in America don't have any mining engineering programs. And most people go to school in their own states. So it meets a need, and we were willing to do it. And one guy from industry said, "Well, if you're mining can be an unpopular thing, I guess." And he said, "Well, if you're criticized for this, you think you can take the heat?" And I said, "First of all, I think everybody already assumes we teach this." And what are they going to do? Call us miners? I mean, and so it's part of our heritage, and so it's something that other universities might have struggled to start. For us, everybody assumes we're already doing it. So they were very pleased with the positive response, and that we weren't just, we'll start another struggling mining program, but we're going to try to meet the needs of the nation from Texas.
I think since we started classes, we can all relate to this, and that is seeing more AI disclaimers in our syllabuses. Now there's a more implementation and a more side to affirm AI use and to start learning it from UTEP, specifically after AI programs started launching here. In spring of 2025, a bachelor's degree in AI launches. Over the summer, it was announced that a fully online AI master's program would be announced. Are these artificial intelligence programs meant for students to learn how to adapt to AI with a focus on the ethics of AI, or more so just trying to get ahead in a world where it feels like everyone is in an individualistic AI arms race?
I actually think this is going to change our lives more than anything since the invention of the personal computer and the internet. I really do. And I think as a university, we actually have a meeting on this afternoon. How, as a university, are we going to understand, train our people, educate our people, and adapt in an area that's changing every week. And some of it will have to do with education and curriculum, like the bachelor's degree in artificial intelligence, master's degree, and we now also just established an AI Innovation Institute, so a research institute in AI. But it's also how we do operations. It's we now have College Vine, which is an AI assistant for enrollment. I talked to it during convocation. It was really a little freaky. And I made a joke. It was a stupid joke, but it knew I was joking. Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. Humor is something that's hard to really understand, especially when it's a really stupid joke. But it said, ha ha, and it laughed. And that was the coolest part, was that it knew I was teasing it. Mm. And so how do we use tools on the operational side of things? We're not going to do parking passes the way we did them this fall ever again, but maybe there's an AI assist that can help us to make things work easier. Mm-hmm. I use Gemini. I prefer that over ChatGPT. I don't know why, but I use Gemini several times a day to find out things. I was out at the airport and I was trying to figure out, what tire pressure I needed because my tires were low on my airplane, and I couldn't find it on the sidewall of the tire. I asked Gemini. I gave him the manufacturer and the plies and everything, and it gave it all to me, and I didn't even need to call my mechanic. So I think it's going to change our lives, and I think we're going to cope like everybody else with how to do this. It'll be ethics, but it'll also be how do you use these tools to be even better than you are. I think it's going to be exciting.
Focusing on the AI Institute, in which was a previously announcement at Convocation, it focused on water scarcity and Hispanic health disparities, particularly how AI could use 720 billions of gallons of water just for it to operate. That's almost all of Puerto Rico. Mm. Is UTEP's AI Institute going to find solutions to these problems by using AI?
Maybe. And the issue of resource use, it's not just water. The electricity demand in the country right now to power these data centers is through the roof. And any community that can get power, you will have data centers that spring up there. It's fascinating to watch. But I think there are complex problems in every field where an AI may help us drive towards solutions. And in the area of research itself, you think about it, there are 7,000 scientific and technical papers published every day in dozens of languages. Well, if I am a specialist in a particular area of, triple-negative breast cancer research, can it be constantly ingesting the latest research so that it suggests to me where the best next vector is for my research? Can we accelerate discovery by using tools to help experts ingest massive amounts of information in fairly narrow areas of expertise? I think that's exciting too. I think we're going to see leaps ahead in scientific and technical innovation when you combine AI tools with the world's greatest experts.
As UTEP is positioning themselves to lead in AI education, how do you see that the program could appeal to people in other fields rather than just seeing how it would benefit them in their own field to actually commit themselves to the AI program?
I think that there are going to be some things we do, and we're just in the beginning of these conversations. It's one thing if you want to do a bachelor's or a master's in AI or something, but I think every major and every student, we need to be offering kind of tailored certificates and minors in AI, and even just training programs so that people, I remember what it was like when we first shifted to computers for case management for child welfare. I was the cabinet secretary for child welfare in New Mexico. Social workers were terrified of the computer. And I knew we were making progress when I'd go in and there's sticky notes on the computer, so they're making, but we've got to get over that with AI too. And there are a lot of employees, many of them with gray hair like me, who are like, I don't want to touch it. I don't know what it's going to do. I don't want to break anything. We've got to get them beyond that so that people can use those tools to bring more to the workplace. And so I think we can do the same with students as well.
I do want to circle back to, you talked about parking for UTEP.
I shouldn't have mentioned that.
Well, if you're able to share with everyone, what's your vision for that?
Well, I can tell you what it's not. I don't think we should have people sitting with 4 devices on for 6 hours trying to wait to get in line, and they're like, your number's 6,364. That's wasting people's time. There are a lot of different ways to do this. We also need to build more parking. We know that, although probably by the time we finish the parking, Waymo will be, transporting everybody, and we won't need to park as many cars. But we need to build more parking, but we also need to change the systems so that you aren't wasting your time standing in line to get a parking pass because everybody comes online at 9 a.m. on the day they're, that's just, that we can do systems better than that. I could do that better with meet you all in Centennial Plaza with a, pick a number thing or something. So we'll fix it.
Yeah. How fast do you think that innovation is going to come up, or what do you project for that?
We're not going to do this again next fall. Period. Full stop. We're going to fix that process.
Final question, because we are running low on time.
Yeah.
$118 million invested into the University of Texas at El Paso. If you could give us a preview, where is that money going to be going?
That is for maintenance and repair, and we have been working on this. I started working on this over a year ago with the UT system. They have had this propensity in the past to build new buildings, which is great, but we've got infrastructure here and buildings here that are historic buildings that we need to maintain. And there wasn't enough money going into maintenance and repair. And I showed them how if you put money into the roofs and the walls and the furnaces and the plumbing and the electrical over time, it's really expensive to defer that and just run it till it breaks. But if you maintain it over time, it's actually less expensive. And I showed them that using some information that I used in a previous job that's actually developed by the U.S. Army and the Army Corps of Engineers on modeling infrastructure. And they took it to heart, and they're doing this not only for UTEP, but across the system to put more money into maintenance and repair. And so $118 million, it will probably first go to things like life safety things and roofs. If you have a leak in the roof, it's really expensive. We just had a leak in the roof over at the Sun Bowl, and we're having to do a huge amount of repairs on a very short notice because, the ceiling fell in and all the plaster gets wet, and it's just a carpet needs to be replaced. It's just expensive. So a lot of money into roofs, pipes, heating systems, things that you won't necessarily see unless they break.
President Wilson, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for making Season 13, Episode 1 of the Prospector Podcast unforgettable. Subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, alongside Evelyn Palma, Kristian Hernandez, and President Wilson. I'm Sebastian Perez-Navarro. We'll see you during Episode 2, but for now, we're over and out.